I'm Dagan McDowell, along with my exceptional co-host, and with us for this hour, Fox News contributor, DeRoy Murdoch.
Amazing. Great to see you guys.
Zohran Mamdani making his socialist dreams a reality in New York City. Mamdani locking in an 11th hour deal on his record $126 billion budget that delivers government handouts, puts the city on the verge of a fiscal crisis, and gives nothing, nada niente, to law enforcement.
If these past months have shown us anything, it is that socialists not only understand economics just as well as the capitalists who came before, but that we can solve their years of mismanagement through an embrace of our principles. We will return to this budget as a reminder of how much more is made possible when we shake off the shackles of the status quo and pursue the transformative change that New Yorkers deserve. That means finding efficiencies, it means cutting waste, and it means taxing the rich.
The rest of the country.
It's too laughable.
You're not cutting any waste either, bucko. The country better be watching New York. Mamdani's brand of politics could be coming to your doorstep. Socialist fever is now infected Colorado. They haven't come up with a vaccine for that yet. A DSA congressional candidate just defeated a 15-term Democrat incumbent in a primary just a week after Zozo's slate swept the party establishment. I don't know. Take this wherever you would like, DeRoy.
Come on, DeRoy.
But this budget is an abomination.
It is. And when Mamdani came in soon after he was sworn in, he said, look, we really have no choice. It's the only choice we have to tax the rich in order to pay for all these things. He had multiple choices, which is he could have frozen spending. He could have taken the previous year's budget, was $116 billion, left it there.
Not given himself a raise.
Not given himself a raise. He could have said, all right, we're just going to keep up with inflation. That would have been $119 billion or so. Even that would have been higher than the $117 billion budget for the entire state of Florida. But instead, what Mamdani did is say, okay, let's go all the way up to $126 billion. That's an 8.6% increase in spending. Roughly 3 times the rate of inflation, a big spending spree. And the only reason he's able to get away with this whole thing is that he was able to go to Kathy Hochul, who's terrified, Kathy the Hack Hochul. I think she was afraid that he would endorse somebody to run against her in a primary, knock her out. And so, okay, what do I need to do? What do I need to do to stay on your good side? And she basically gave him $8 billion. He then proceeded not to give any money to the NYPD, not hire 580 new cops, basically raid 4 different municipal pension funds and not put money in the pension funds for those municipal workers. If he did that in the private sector, he'd probably be arrested for malfeasance and for misallocation of funds. And, you know, he's a charismatic guy. He's well-spoken. He's very crafty. I don't know what he's going to do next year when he doesn't have this $8 billion infusion from Albany. But it may look like a victory now. It's not going to last for long. And I think next year when he doesn't have this magic fund come in from Kathy Hochul, he's going to be in really big trouble.
Can we talk about the relationship with state? And Jackie, I think we were kind of hinting on this in the segment we did last hour when we were talking about this. And I think I'm trying to figure out not who's at fault, but how this comes down. So Hochul cowed to him because she was too afraid of being primaried. Hakeem Jeffries eventually said, okay, we support the Democratic Socialists of America, even though I didn't endorse them, because the end, it's a means to the same ending.
We have a big tent.
There's something bigger, right? That like we have different ways, but the end goal looks the same. So I think I'm trying to figure out in the Democrat Party, is it shame on that establishment, the Hakeems, the Kathy Hochuls, for not standing up right now at this moment? Or is it a smart realization that that is the future of the Democrat Party and everyone is shifting that way? And I think I'm trying to figure out within the Democrat Party, I guess, sort of who is in charge. And to me, it seems like Hochul and Hakeem Jeffries are sort of ceding that power and saying, okay, this is the future, and the Democrat Party is going to go there. And I'm not sure that means it's good for Republicans, though.
Because they're scared, and there's nobody like John Fetterman or even Slotkin now standing up against this and saying, we're not going to this does not represent us. Let's not mix this all together. Unfortunately, they're few and far between. But some of these folks are realizing that if they don't get on board with this, they will not continue to hold on to power. And so that's a real problem because it's like a browbeating situation almost, whether or not they actually believe it. Having said that, this taking money from the pension funds, deferring pension fund payments, to me is a huge problem. And I agree with you. He should be in jail because, I mean, this is crazy. We were talking about in the break again, Medicaid for all, after we were talking about the Colorado congressional race and the winner there and her statements that she was making. One of them was Medicare for all and, you know, how you throw granny off a cliff. Pension fund deferral. I mean, people count on this money. That like blew me away. And then he's talking about waste and whatever and not hiring cops. To me, hiring cops is not a waste. All the other things you want to spend money on, like free grocery stores, government housing, free buses are now off the table because even with the expanded budget, he can't manage to muster up enough money for that. This is just wild. I mean, we talked about having to live through this so other people can see. This is torture.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he said in the beginning that socialists now understand economics better than capitalists, and I have to tell you that I take real big exception to that. Here's the big problem. You're talking about a man who has never run a business, doesn't understand how to generate any cash flow, managing $126 billion. And we covered Nike earlier, which does like 60 billion or some crazy number in revenue. This is a gentleman that doesn't understand the sources and uses and now has a giant checkbook in front of him. And he's going to ruin it for a lot of people while the city continues to be destroyed. I don't think he understands that the $126 billion is actually generated from capitalism. Well, that's how the money got there.
Yeah. This is defund the police. I saw John Chell earlier, is it John, the former chief of department here in the NYPD? Saw him early this morning. You have so Mamdani caved to the socialists who went after him. All the lefties went after him about any addition to the ranks of our police officers. There is natural attrition every year in the NYPD. And so when you do not expand the head count, you are not, like, when you don't give any money for that, you are defunding the police. And the very fact that around 50 elected officials and advocates, including the local Democrat Socialists of America chapter, gathered around City Hall last Thursday to protest his about face that he was planning to swell the police department ranks by just 580 police officers. And then he caved on that. Ultimately, he sided with the protesters.
Let's talk quickly, Dagan. You and I have been tracking this. Illinois, what to watch for New York? Illinois didn't fund their pensions. They're facing $200 billion unfunded pension liability. Illinois, when they go to market to sell bonds to fund a road, a school, you name it, they pay a significant more because the risk of taking on that debt. New York City could be facing, I think they came to market in like March, paid a little bit and you're starting to see spreads widen. And as investors are saying, I'm going to demand a little bit more of a return from you because I'm not now fully trusting in your ability to repay me. So you've started to see that. Illinois also issues pension obligation bonds. They go to market, they sell debt to fund their pensions, hoping to then pay investors back in the future. I don't think, maybe New York City does that. I don't think they do yet. Let's watch that. So I think for me, Illinois is sort of my case study of massively unfunding pensions for 15 years. This also can be a double-edged sword because you don't fund a pension for a police or a firefighter, and you're telling me one thing. But he's also then not funding pensions for teachers, sewage, waste work, like city and those workers who also support him because those are all big unions. So not funding the pension can work both ways. It can, I think, help him by we hate cops, but also his constituents in the unions are now going to be seeing their relationship with their pension look a lot different. How long does it take them to realize that he's then the problem of that?
And also, if you're driving away billionaires and businesses, keeping them out or sending them away from New York City to other parts of the United States that are friendlier to businesses, lower tax, you are not creating union jobs. We talked about this with the head of a steam fitters local, the president, that, for example, Ken Griffin, you have, say, construction that doesn't happen. Those are private union jobs. You are directly, literally turning your back on the unions if you are not aggressively courting new construction, private construction in New York City.
You know, there's sort of a fact check on this whole issue of the Democrat Socialists of America theoretically defeating moderate Democrats. All these moderate Democrats are getting wiped out. This is ridiculous. The people who've lost are far left Democrats who've gotten wiped out. For example, last night, Diana DeJed in Colorado, this is the CPAC rating. 0 is most liberal, 100 is most conservative. Her CPAC rating is 3.39. 3%. She votes with conservatives 3% of the time. Andriano Espaillat, who got knocked out here in New York City a week ago last night, his lifetime rating is 2.05.
Yeah, so not so moderate.
These are not moderates. They're no moderate Democrats. You have far left Democrats who are being knocked out by even further left Democrats. So let's be clear on that. The people that they're defeating are very, very left. That's not even good enough for this new modern Democrat Party. We've got to be radical left, going over the edge left, not just super left. That's no longer sufficient for these people.
I don't mean to drive the car in the ditch. Could these people be defeated by Republican candidates in these districts?
They might if they get independents to support them. It could be, and if they show up.
Populism is a horseshoe.
Well, it
and
is,
They come
and
very
also
close
if
together.
Republicans show up, if they stay home and say either, you know, I'm grumpy, I don't want to vote.
Has to be a moderate Republican.
Or if they think, hey, you know, Trump's in control, everything's cool, it's all in his hands, so I'm going to stay home. Republicans need to show up at the polls. It needs to be 100% GOP turnout. Then
I
maybe
also
you can win.
think Republicans need younger candidates to kind of come up against these people because they're all sort of like young and charismatic, and I'm not trying to put feathers in their cap, but that is what they have that people are drawn to.
And that's not nothing. That's a lot, actually.
In the Republican Party, you think of like old, gray-haired like men. We need some young people to get out there. That was the problem that we had here in New York City, which was two horrible candidates on the other side, and therefore what happened happened. But what if we had some young Republican charmer getting out there and doing the same thing to counterbalance it?
Absolutely.
I'll take it some old white-haired dude over
I
a
will
shrieking
too,
commie who says that America had 9/11 coming.
Yep.
By the way, I was talking about you flip the script and throw it back in their face. Medicare for all. What does that say to older Americans who are on the precipice of getting Medicare, that you're not going to fix it for them because the hospital fund runs out of money in 7 years? So you're going to let them get an automatic benefit cut? Okay. Yeah, watch every elder. The AARP will rally the troops against these lefties.
I say Jackie for mayor.
Listen,
Jackie for mayor. You heard it right here.
I watch this, and sometimes I think to myself,
Why not?
man.
I should do it. What's up? I'll give you $1,000. Is that what it takes? Let's go.
Yeah, right. You're trying to get out of here as fast as you can. You're looking at Meta.